This meeting is being recorded.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the January 4th meeting of the Design and Project Review Committee. We do have a quorum. We're going to call the meeting to order. Is there somebody who would like to suspend the rules to participate, for members to participate electronically?
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Okay, Michael Griffith, please call the roll. Who's calling the roll today?
It will be me, actually.
Okay, great, thank you. Katie, please call the roll.
Knighton,
Aye.
Griffith.
Aye.
I am marked present. Katie Ashbaugh. Schnur,
Aye.
Kano,
Yes.
Biggs,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Papa,
Aye.
Eggersberg. Okay, and then Pratt.
Aye.
We have a quorum.
I was not called. This is
We're
Jessica.
suspending
Oh, hi, sorry.
Read the rules.
I read your name and I didn't say it. I'm sorry, Jessica.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, we do have
so
a
that was
quorum.
for suspension of the rules. Motion to suspend.
Oh,
Okay, so next up is the meeting minutes, December 15th meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Katie, please
Okay.
call the roll.
Knighton,
Aye.
Griffith,
Aye.
Ashbaugh, I will vote yes. Schnur,
Aye.
Kano,
I abstain for not being present.
Biggs,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Papa,
Aye.
Eggersberg, Heinck,
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then I believe Megan Jones just joined the meeting as well. Is that correct, Megan? Are you in?
Yes, I am here finally.
Great. Okay, welcome. All right, so it's my understanding, I see a lot of people in the meeting. If there are people who would like to sign up for public comment for any of the items, if you could send a message in the chat to me, that would be great. So then I can call on people who want to speak to various items and indicate which item you're speaking to. So we'll take each item separately for public comment if that is the case. First, I'd like the applicant to present their case and then we'll hear any public comment. So first item under new business is 1946 Orrington 21 ZMJV-0060. Richard Dooley, property owner, requests a special use permit for a non-owner occupied rooming house in the R4A General Residential District, zoning code section 6-8-6-3. The Land Use Commission makes a recommendation to the City Council, the determining body for this case. So Mr. Dooley, are you on the call?
I am.
Okay, great. So why don't, usually applicants just give a few minutes of an overview of their proposal and their request. And then we'll take any public comment and then staff will ask some questions. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The premise is a 10-room house. It's historic, I think, by way of the neighborhood. I've owned it for over 20 years. I'm pursuing the special use so that I can rent the property in a conformity with Evanston law. Evanston, without the rooming house license, there's a restrictive rental, which is called the non greater than 3 related, not greater occupants if not related, not greater than 3 if not related. The house has been graphically presented, and I'm seeing on the screen some of the graphic submission. The house is, I mentioned 10 rooms. It's slightly over 3,000 square feet. It's quite up to date. It's been a rental for 20 years. The space per room is shown in the graphic design. So this is not tight living conditions. The square footage per room I can voice to you if there's interest. There are 4 common area rooms: a kitchen, a sitting room, a dining room, and a living room. The property has a 2-car garage with a cement pad, which would allow a 3rd car to be parked. The property, in respect to conversations I've had with Mario Tristan on fire requirements, all of those can be met. These are detailed, and I've talked at length with Mario, and they're not. I don't think any are irregular. They would be standard requirements for a rooming house. I don't have any comments on engineering. I do on what would be the impact of the proposed rooming house, and I'm drifting off to an aside, but there's a recent plat of survey, and you can get a pretty good handle on the placement of the property. Perhaps some of you already know of it or have seen it. But in the application, it asks about impact, and I'm going to address item B. It says, will the requested special use interfere or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood? Will it cause a negative cumulative effect in the neighborhood? The answer to that is no. There are currently several active rooming houses on the block, the same block. It's not a new item at all. The rooming house has been in the Evanston world of permits for I suspect for quite a while. Next question about impact: will it have any impact on traffic congestion? And the answer would be no. This isn't a hotel or any type of density action. In fact, if it was like a family, you could probably have husband and wife and 6 children in it with no trouble at all. One more feature of the world of impacts. I'm asked if the special use will comply with applicable regulations and ordinance. Well, the answer is yes, of course, subject to the final approval of the special use. These are asides, but I've spoken to Claire Kelly, our alderperson, several times. She's quite a heads-up gal, and I have a feeling that among this committee that from time to time they've talked to Claire Kelly, and I've been in touch with my most proximate neighbors. regarding the special use application. And I can give you a reasonable mental position. They have basically a neutral feeling. Specifically, if it's approved, they're okay with it. I do think I've got much of what I wanted to say across. So why don't I just stop and hear your comments or questions?
Can you repeat what you said, the conversation you've had with the neighbors and the council member about the proposal?
Yes. Did you want more information?
No, can you just repeat it for me?
Oh, well,
I just want to make sure I heard it clear.
I've talked to my most proximate neighbors. The neighbor across the street, his last name is Litzinger, and the neighbor to the immediate tangent to the house would be to the south, and that's Pete Mitchell. Claire Kelly and I have had, a ongoing dialogue, and initially her comments to me were, let's see how this sails with the parties to my application, that being you, and any neighbors that want to make comments as these hearings move forward. That was Claire Kelly's position.
Okay. I think we have some comments from the chat. Cecile McHugh. Let's do 2 minutes here.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'm sorry I didn't time. I'll speak quickly. I've lived in the middle of the block of 1900 Orrington for 16 years, and my family and I have been plagued for years by the party noise coming from the large number of students living at this nuisance property at 1946 Orrington. Neighbors have complained about the noise from this nuisance property for years with no effect. This owner has been violating the law regarding occupancy for years. After repeatedly having been called on this, the owner is now attempting to continue making the same profit he has made as an absentee landlord by posing as being suddenly interested in running a rooming house. In the owner's application for a special use, the owner says that there are several rooming houses on the 1900 block. This is not the case. I know most all and know of all the property owners on this block. Immediately adjacent to 1946 Orrington, the north corner property, are 8 single-family houses, owner-occupied with long-term owners, comprising the bulk of the block. The block also has 1 rooming house, 2 single-family owner-occupied homes recently purchased, and an annual apartment buildings for families. This is a family block to which the nuisance property at 1946 Orrington is an exception. In the application for the special use, the owner says the special use will not cause a negative cumulative effect. I'm here to tell you that I have already, and my family has already felt the negative cumulative effect of the noise from this over-occupied property, preventing my family from being able to enjoy living where we do the way we would without this nuisance. Obviously, other families who have also complained about the noise feel the same way. The loud and obnoxious party noise keeps me from being able to enjoy my yard and porches the way I would were it not for the nuisance. At times, I simply go inside rather than hear it. When planning a get-together, I wonder whether the nuisance is going to be an issue. For example, I hesitated to have my mother's 90th birthday here, wondering if drunken behavior is going to come into play from this property. And I'm in the middle of the block. I feel for those living close, and I can still hear it. It's loud. I feel for those living closer to the property. I know some of them are furious about it, and I will bet some of them are actually losing sleep. Just because they're not here doesn't mean that they knew about the meeting and felt able to come and speak for themselves. I worry about the kids in the block who are in elementary school being affected by the party noise from and the atmosphere of this property. In the application for the special use, the owner says the special use will not diminish the value of property. This is obviously false because being in close proximity to a nuisance property is obviously going to deter many potential buyers. The 1 rooming house on this block I referred to was occupied and well managed by an owner whom I know, who bought the property, I will estimate 45 years ago. She told me that the building was designed to be a rooming house and always had been. This owner rented the rooms out individually, having some rooms up for rent with each school year, but many other rooms rented to multi-year tenants. Her renters were NU grad students referred to her by NU. She especially enjoyed having multi-year renters, I would think, with the ease, certainly, but the companionship and help the multi-year tenants provided over the years. I believe she had a manager living on premises also, the two of them, in later years. The owner provided a well-equipped kitchen. She provided dishware, encouraged the students to socialize in the dining room while studying, and provided sweets as an incentive. This was a real rooming house with a responsible, concerned, caring owner living on site, providing a family-like atmosphere. I'm nearly done. Thank you. Please deny this request for a special use for a supposed rooming house at 1946 Orrington. Instead, require that this absentee landlord finally obey the law regarding occupancy of his property. This will reduce the nuisance from his property to the families on this block and not contribute to it by making the current over occupancy that has been contributing greatly to the party atmosphere and cumulative noise of this nuisance house legal. I was surprised to hear him say the neighbors are okay with that. The immediate neighbor, he's been furious about this for a while. I haven't spoken with him lately. I'm not sure where he stands on this, but maybe he didn't feel comfortable. Clara Kelly told me, I believe in September, it was certainly at the beginning of this term.
Right, Ms.
That the
McHugh,
landlord, I'm sorry,
we're just at 4 minutes here. I just want to make sure.
Oh,
that-
I'm so sorry. My last point was that Claire Kelly, who she's had family issues lately, she said in September that he agreed to rent to only families in the future. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't time it.
It's okay. Anyone else on comment for this particular item? And then I'll move to staff questions. You either chat or do the hand raise thing. Okay, seeing none. Staff questions or comments?
This is Richard Dooley. Do I fit into what's open right now? May I comment?
No, you're the applicant. You had you did your little overview, and then I'm just now staff is going to give any comments or questions. So
Okay.
there may be questions for you for that. And then if you have any other comments you could make, we'll do that. All right. Anyone from staff have any comments or questions?
So do I understand the situation is that it's been operating as a rooming house and this is an attempt to bring it into compliance? Is that what's happening?
Yes, that's correct. I personally have been working with Mr. Dooley and property maintenance supervisor Angel Schnur to have Mr. Dooley file the special use application, as he was cited for being in violation of having over occupancy at this property, and to get into compliance with the zoning code and no longer be over occupied. He had to request the special use permit. So he has his application complete. The Land Use Commission will be holding a public hearing on this next Wednesday, January 12th at 7 o'clock. But I'll defer to Angel Schnur on the proceedings with the adjudication process with that.
Angel, do you have any comments or questions?
I'm currently in administrative hearings with Mr. Dooley in regards to the over occupancy. The case has been continued a couple of times in order for him to move forward with his rooming house application in an attempt to bring the property into compliance. There is another hearing coming up this week where we'll tell the judge what the status of his application is and any subsequent information that comes up, before the hearing. But he's currently in administrative hearings for this.
Angel, other than over occupancy, has there been a history of other types of violations or complaints at the property?
We have done a number of rental inspections at the property, and whenever violations have been observed, Mr. Dooley is usually pretty quick to address those. At the beginning of this process, we did run a report to see how many complaints we had received through 311 regarding over occupancy or property maintenance issues at this property. And if I recall correctly, this was several months ago now, we have probably 3 in the 10 years that 311 has been in use. That's not accounting for any police complaints or noise complaints. It's just strictly property complaints with regards to 311.
How many occupants are in the structure?
I believe there's currently 7.
I'm sorry let's do it correctly. It's 6.
Other staff comments or questions?
Comments from the fire department. I spoke with Mr. Dooley. Per city ordinance requirements, the non-owner occupied space would be required to be sprinklered. So Mr. Dooley is aware that if granted approval, he would have to provide a residential sprinkler system for the building.
Is there a timeline for that, Mario, or?
Not at this time.
Okay.
That's something that should this body recommend approval to the Land Use Commission, that we would like I think it's the very last attachment to the DAPR packet for this application, that the conditions and details from Mario be kind of referenced as a condition of approval, and that there be some sort of timeline, to your point, on that condition. So then it goes into a hypothetical ordinance for the special use, and we as staff can, follow up and make sure that the house is updated accordingly.
Other staff questions or comments?
I guess hearing that it's been operated with some nuisance activity already. I'm wondering how going forward, the property owner will minimize those nuisances if it hasn't been able to been done already. I guess that's my concern.
Mr. Julie, that's a question to you, it sounds like.
So the answer would be having specificity on how the best behavior would be required. So specifically, there would be measurable ceiling on noise, and that's possible. There's sensors that can immediately alert me as the owner or the occupants, which is more important, that their noise has gone above a specified level. I guess we all know that we're kind of in a technological revolution, but what I just mentioned is true. There are sensors. Yes, I would get those sensors. That would be a very strong method of capping out what could lead to a nuisance noise.
So I think, Mr. Dooley, I think the question more relates less to how I don't think there's a dispute of whether the noise is there. I think we're getting the feedback that there's noise there. I think it's, if you're going to propose to manage a rooming house, which has multiple people and multiple parties in a space, and not live at the property on site, I think how are you going to manage if somebody is being habitually problematic? How are you managing that as a rooming house operator?
Well, there's two ways. One, I mentioned sensors that would be a clear and correct measure of the noise, the sensors. That's part one. And part two, the actual party that goes beyond the noise level would know immediately that they have broached a line call it a line in the sand, and would, if they're anyway responsible person, they would cut it back and be quiet.
But what if they're not responsible about cutting it back and being quiet?
Well,
What
I
would
would know
you
about
then
it. Oh, excuse me. I would know about it, and I'd take forceful action. I could, and I think it's wise to have a rental clause that they would be evicted.
So can I ask if you've been more or less operating like this for a period of time, and you're aware of these sensors, what has prevented you from doing this in the past and putting sensors in or taking action against problematic tenants, which we know that you have?
In respect to the sensors, I actually learned about that very recently. Let's call it a partner in the world of renting, particularly to students, but not exclusively, told me of these sensors, and he carries a alert in his pocket, and it tells him if the noise level has gone above a measure that's where it's potentially a nuisance. So he carries a sensor in his pocket. There's also a sensor in his premise. But I only learned about that very recently, and it sounds space age, but it is for real. And so I mentioned if the violator is a problem, a significant problem, I would have a clause to throw him out or her out.
So
I
is
think
that
I
clause not in your leases currently?
But there is a clause or something that's very standard. I think it goes something along the lines of peaceful enjoyment, to not go into something that would make the property non-habitable. Those are, I didn't write the lease, but that's in a standard lease, not a non-habitable behavior. So that's what's in the lease currently.
Okay. Any other staff questions? Otherwise, if not, is there a motion for this item? Laura, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'll make a motion. So, hold on one second. I'm going to make a motion for a positive recommendation to the Land Use Commission contingent on Mr. Dooley presenting information regarding the installation of a noise monitoring system, with the caveat that the special use be reviewed 12 months from now for notices of violation, both noise and other property standards.
And do you want to also put in the requirement, a timeline requirement for sprinklers?
Yes, but I kind of assumed that the sprinklers would be required to be installed prior to the granting of the special use. So you would
Sounds
need to
good then.
install the sprinklers.
Noted
prior to the
motion. All right, is there a
occupancy.
second?
Second.
All right, so there's a positive recommendation. Sorry,
Who seconded?
I think Edgar did.
Okay. thank
Yeah,
you.
Edgar.
Okay, so we have a motion, a positive recommendation from this body. Katie, would you please call the roll?
Nyden,
No.
Griffith,
No.
Jones.
No.
I do not need to vote because there are already two members from Planning and Zoning Division. Angel Schnur,
I'm abstaining as I'm enforcing against this property now.
Kano,
No.
Biggs,
No.
Tristan,
Aye.
Papa,
No.
Eckersberg,
Aye.
aye, okay. Hyank,
Aye.
Pratt,
No.
Katie, what was the count
Motion.
there?
Motion fails by a vote of 3-7 in the negative.
All right, so Mr. Dooley, we are a recommending body. We're not a determining body. So this item will be at the Land Use Commission on January 12th at 7 p.m.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item, 1224 Washington Street. James Tullio, property owners, request 2 zoning variations from the Evanston zoning ordinance to allow for the subdivision of one 9,226 square foot, 100-foot wide residential corner lot into 2 residential lots in the R3 2-family residential district. The applicant requests 1 major variation to allow the proposed interior lot to be 4,226 square feet, where a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet is required, section 6-8-4-4. The applicant also requests a minor variation to allow the proposed corner lot to have an impervious surface lot coverage of approximately 3,485 square feet or 69.7%, where the maximum permitted is 3,000 square feet or 60%, section 6-8-4-9. The subject property is currently improved with a 1-2-story building, a driveway, and a patio. The applicant is not proposing any site improvements to the subject property in association with these requests. The Land Use Commission is the determining body for this case. So Katie, before we hear from the applicant, can you just walk through the review of your analysis for this one?
Sure. So Mr. Tullio came forward over the summer to ask about doing a 2-lot split for the subject property. And the property is just under the under 10,000 square feet. So if he were to create 1 conforming lot with a minimum area of 5,000 square feet, the remaining lot would obviously not meet that, and it would be 4,226 square feet. So that is what the major variation is for, and that's triggering the review by this body and then also the Land Use Commission. The other request is being reviewed in conjunction with the major variation. It is a minor variation to allow the existing improvements on what is the proposed lot 1 on the subdivision to remain, and it would there's an impervious, it exceeds the maximum permitted impervious surface requirement. So right now is 1 zoning lot and lot of record, the impervious surface is compliant, but when it's going to be reduced down to 5,000 square feet, it will no longer comply. So that in essence is what we're requiring, or what he's requesting. As staff, we've also asked that an easement be proposed along the south of lot 1, so that the lot 2 can have vehicular access to Asbury Avenue to the west. And we would also like the like Dapper and Land Use Commission to add another condition that no additional curb cut be installed on lot 2, on either lot 1 or lot 2 on Washington Street, so that both of the properties are having what's functioning as an alley to the south via the easement that he's putting in on lot 1. I think that covers it, and I think Mr. Tullio's here. Did anyone have any questions about my review?
No, let's hear from the applicant. Mr. Tullio, do you want to give us an overview of your proposal?
Sure. Hi, guys. So my situation is I've been here. I bought this building in 2006. And I'm sure, I don't know if you all know this, but it's a pretty historical building. The back end of the building used to be a barn. And I was told by the city that that's the oldest building in Evanston. So at one time in Evanston was only this barn. And I think it was a barn from 1858 to the 1950s at some point. Then they built this brick part of the building and it was a butcher shop for 50 years. And then in the 1950s, they converted to a corner grocery store. And in 2006, I bought it. And I'm a music producer. And I just have I live upstairs and I have a personal studio downstairs. It's never been a commercial space. I don't sell time. I don't, I just use it for my own use. Anyway, up until about 2 years ago, everything was fine. And I was lucky enough to obtain a private mortgage for the building. And I have a good friend who's very wealthy and he gave me a private mortgage. And I had a very low interest rate and that was locked in for 9 years. And in 2017, that 9 years was up and my mortgage rate quadrupled. Because when you have a private mortgage, the minimum interest that can be charged is the bank-to-bank rate. So by 2017, the bank-to-bank rate quadrupled from 2008 when I got the initial mortgage. So anyway, the bottom line is I haven't been able to afford the mortgage. And then COVID hit, and whatever business I was doing, I'm a record producer, and nobody's using recording studios. Now I use this studio at times, but I also went downtown and used downtown studios, but business basically stopped. So I basically had no income. Then I decided, since I wasn't having any commercial business at all, whether it be here or downtown, I started a nonprofit music production school through the mayor's office. It's called MEAC, and it's been an incredibly successful program. I've done 63 tracks with high school students since the end of March of 2020. Now, if you have any idea of what that means, 63 tracks is more than 6 albums in less than 2 years. That's a lot of work. And it's all for these kids, and I do it all completely pro bono. Don't charge anything. And these kids are getting a great deal out of it. So the reason why I'm requesting this is because I have a private mortgage, the mortgage holder is willing to donate the building to my nonprofit. But when he gave me the initial mortgage, he didn't pay tax on that. So whether he donates the building to the nonprofit or not, he still has to pay that initial tax. So the sale of the lot will cover that tax. So I'm not looking to to make any financial gain here. I'm just looking to save my building and save the program that I've started. And that's basically it.
Okay, any staff questions or comments?
So I appreciate your story, but I have a number of concerns about it. And I think if you can zoom back to the previous view that you had going on, Katie. No, the plat of subdivision. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, the plat of subdivision view. So this lot apparently at one time was 2, what I assume were fairly normal sized lots. And at one point, somebody took the east half of these lots and combined them and sold it off into a single property, which is almost entirely covered by a house. And then when you do your lot, you also are going to be in violation of impervious surface. And the lot that isn't in violation, lot 2, is going to be a substandard lot that people won't really be able to build on unless they get a lot of variances, and probably including for impervious surface. So I really don't think it's a good practice for us to generate a substandard lot. This body, as well as other, what's now the Land Commission, governing bodies in the city, deal a lot with the problems related to substandard lots. And we could write a book on all of the stories related to substandard lots. But essentially, as soon as somebody buys lot 2 and tries to develop it, it's highly likely that the neighbors will come out of the woodwork and complain about all of this variances needed to develop a substandard lot. So it's just a really bad practice for us to violate impervious surface. It's in violation of the CARP policy that was adopted by the city council to allow impervious surfaces to be exceeding the zoning. And in addition, the creation of yet another substandard lot where we essentially already have 2 lots that are way overbuilt that are blanketing on either side is just a really bad policy. I'm not really sure there's anything you can do about it to address that. It's just kind of the situation.
What do you mean that the 2 lots are overbuilt? I'm not sure I understand.
So there's requirements in zoning that are related to building lot coverage and impervious surface allowances. When you sell off lot 2, you will effectively, lot 1 will be in violation of those, well, particularly the impervious surface requirement. But the lot that was sold off years ago that is adjacent to the alley and fronts Washington Street, which is also strange because it goes over, the way that this has all been platted is really odd. That lot, you can just visually look on Google Maps, you can go inspect it, is substantially covered by a house and garage that covers almost all of the green space in that lot. So that is unrelated to you, but it is related to you in that these 2 lots are getting divided up into some very odd ways that basically prevent any stormwater from being able to infiltrate in this area. So you can see to the east of the area that you own is a house that substantially covers its own lot. So we try not to cover all the green space because then it generates flooding issues. That's the reason behind the impervious surface rules. But even, I mean, in addition to that, just the generation of, again, this may not be a thing that you're particularly familiar with, but my colleagues certainly are. When you generate a substandard lot that will require variances in order to develop, it creates a lot of political issues that have to be dealt with. And we're dealing with a lot of those historic substandard lots, but I can't support creating an additional new substandard lot where one does not exist.
The lot next to me to the east is a smaller lot than lot number 2.
Yes, and it is a substandard lot. And if those people ever want to do anything different with their house, it's going to cause tremendous nightmares. Want a different size garage, want to put a second story addition on,
Right.
a different deck or porch, it's going to set off all kinds of alarm bells because what was allowed in the past probably shouldn't have been allowed, but it's done. We can't really do anything about it today, but we can prevent the creation of that type of situation again.
Okay.
Other comments or questions from staff?
I just wanted to say that I echo everything that Laura said in terms of the lot and the creation of additional substandard lots and variances moving forward for anybody who would want to do anything on this property. But the other concern as I look at it is the requirement. I mean, lot 2 would need to have access to the property, and requiring an easement sounds really nice today. But 15, 20 years from now, if we have neighbors who are not getting along, easements and snow removal and garbage removal and, you know, grass trimming and maintenance of the easement is, you know, potentially an issue. I mean, I don't know that we need to create problems. I mean, I can't foresee the future, but we have these issues in other properties.
I agree with that, Angel. If we are deciding to move forward with this, I would also make a recommendation that easement should be a minimum of 16 feet wide. The curb cut appears to be, I didn't go out and measure, it feels like the easement is being suggested to match the curb cut, but 8 feet wide, if there's a car there, then you can't get around the other car, and you have two neighbors that are using the same space and might not all want to move their cars at the same time. So you would need to have the ability for cars to pull off to one side in order to generate the ability for people to pass each other.
May I address that?
Sure.
To the east of the easement, there's bushes. So that would all be taken out. If you take out the bushes and then there's a small fence there. If you take all that out, the size would be 17 feet. So two cars could easily pass within 17 feet.
Yes, which is, so I'm agreeing that you would have to make the easement a minimum of 16 feet.
Yeah, I mean, that's already been discussed, and I would take out those bushes and it would be 17 feet.
Okay, well, right now, I think it's being shown. Is it being shown as 17? I thought the easement that was being suggested was 8 feet. My apologies.
No, Laura, you're correct. The proposed easement is 8 feet because right now, if he were to widen the easement to go basically right to the south building wall, he would have to put his lot 1, which parking is not really supposed to be in the interior side yard. So we had suggested the 8-foot easement initially to maintain his parking situation so that he didn't become non-compliant with parking. I don't know if that clarifies. And I think it's just under 17 feet from the southeast corner of the existing building to the south lot line.
So I think you just made a statement that supports both my original point and Angel's point, which is that you're creating a lot of non-compliant situations that are only going to cause trouble in the future. And unless you make that easement 16 feet, it's already a not ideal situation, but it's at 8 feet, it's just opening up a can of worms for arguments between two future neighbors who don't necessarily get along a generation down the road. So it would have to be a minimum of 16 feet easement, which triggers perhaps other issues.
Okay.
Other comments or questions?
Then I will make a motion for a negative recommendation to the Land Use Commission.
I would second that negative motion.
Okay, Katie, call the roll.
Nyden,
Aye.
Griffith,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
I am not a voting member. There are other members from the Planning and Zoning Division. Schnur,
Yeah, aye.
Kano,
Aye.
Biggs,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Papa,
Aye.
Eckersberg,
Aye.
Heinck,
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Motion to recommend denial to the Land Use Commission carries.
All right, so Mr. Tullio, we're just recommending body. The item will be at Land Use Commission on the 12th.
Yes.
Okay, and they're also a recommending body, and that travels to City Council ultimately, right?
The major variation will have a final determination by the Land Use Commission. But if they were to recommend denial, then we can't, or they were to deny the request, then his proposed plat of subdivision would not go to council because he
Right.
can't subdivide. So
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Truly. If you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with Katie on this. All right, next item, 999 Howard Street, minor adjustment to plan development. David Block, applicant, submits for a minor adjustment to a approved plan development to modify the south Howard Street facade of the addition to the CJE Senior Life Building by adding a security gate and fence. 99-1015 Howard Street, approved by ordinance 8-0-20 in the B2 Business District. All right, David Block, are you here?
Yes, good afternoon. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you, Michael. So if you will recall, we came to Dapper, I think in November, to talk about a couple of little things. And this was one of the issues that we started to talk about. And because we hadn't sort of fully thought through these issues, you thought it was important that we come back here. The issue is with the plan development approval for this project, there was a requirement that we maintain 11'10" vertical clearance to allow for a loading dock on the west gate of this project, right in front of the former CJE or the current existing CJE building that will now be part of this larger development. The initial thought we had was to conceal a security gate for the upper level parking deck of this complex behind the structural member there. But because of the way these gates work, that would reduce the vertical clearance below the 11'10" level. And the feedback we got was, yeah, that would have to go back as a major variance. It would have to go back to Plan Commission and probably back to City Council, and we did not want to go through that. The reason that we are exploring this is, I think, as we mentioned before, everybody is aware of the raft of catalytic converter thefts that have been happening in Evanston for more than a year now. And the CJE Shalom buses that are an important part of the program that CJE operates out of this facility, they have catalytic converters on them. And so during the time that those buses have been stored away from the former fenced-in area of this site, they've had a couple of cases of the converters stolen from these buses, and it's really disruptive for CJE, who is our partner on this project. Takes the bus out of service, it's expensive, it's an insurance claim, and it messes up their ability to serve their clients. So we really want to make sure that we're providing a secure environment for CJE's transportation resources here. So we think it's important to provide a rolling security gate so that people cannot access this upper level parking deck where these buses are stored. So we think we have a solution that maintains that 11'10" clearance. The compromise here is that it will involve putting the gate itself outboard of the structure of the building. So yeah, as you're going through this here, you can see sort of where this is in the context. If you want to go, actually, I think it's to the fourth image of this. And one more, it gives you a better sense of how this will work. Yeah, that one. So the rolling gate is it's curled up basically on a spindle, and there's a motor on one end of it that rolls it up. And so this solution here will provide a metal enclosure for the rolling gate mechanism. The clearance for that will be above that 11'10". And the vertical structure that supports this will tie into some 6-foot pedestrian size fencing to provide pedestrian access to that upper level. So when the staff first arrive in the morning, I think there's a remote control that rolls this gate up. And while the program is operating during the day between 8 and 4 in the afternoon, the gate will be up. And then in the evening, when the program shuts down, the gate will be closed for the evening. So it's really a visual change to the project, but we did want to bring it back to this committee before we proceeded to approve this work. Obviously, 999-1015 Howard is well underway. We're actually having a meeting with city staff either next week or the following week to talk about getting ready for our certificate of occupancy inspections. So we're almost done, but we did want to bring this issue to you before we approve it.
David, would this be removable ultimately if the area-wide converter theft stopped or vehicles no longer had catalytic converters at some point in time?
It would be. I mean, yes, this potentially we could take this off the building if we didn't need it anymore. You know, will we ever not need security in this location? That would be great. But you know, stuff has been happening along Howard Street as long as I've been aware of it. So I think having some level of security here is going to be important.
Is this fence solid then, or can you see through it?
You'll see through it. I mean, you can see there's a level of translucency that's in this image. It's actually, and I think there are some of our architects are here. Dom or Rob, are you on the
Yes,
call?
David, the coiling gate, as you said, will be up all day. I'm not sure of its openness factor when it is closed, but I would assume that it's more than 50% open based on the type of closure that it is. It's basically a mesh of sorts. And then the panels that are proposed for the fence and for the gates, those are perforated aluminum panels that has to have round openings, staggered openings, which provide 58% vision through at all times.
From a walkability perspective and being on the street, I would really like to see what this gate would actually look like, not just a drawing, before making a determination, because this type of gate can be very unwelcoming to the streetscape and not feel like a place that's comfortable for people to walk.
Other comments or questions?
I believe there was an email that went out that said some materials had been supplied as part of that were sitting in the building.
That's a different site. It's a different site.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion.
It's all right. We got a lot of buildings going on right now. I think my concern is this is gonna look like it's a lockdown building. And how do we, I think we're all sympathetic, empathetic of the situation. How do we keep this vehicle safe? Because those provide a critical service to individuals, but how do we not make this look like this is some kind of facility where people are being contained and not residing? And the lack of sort of materiality of this drawing is giving me pause to make a decision on it. Is it one of the things we started to do, which Laura just referenced, is people provide us materials and then we put them in a public space at the city and then people can look at the materials. Are you able to get us the materials within the week and we can put it out somewhere and let staff see?
Dominic, do you have cut sheets for this fence?
Yes, we do.
If Dominic Hart is our architect with Urbanworks Architects, if he can share his screen, I think he can probably show you the material that they are recommending.
Sorry, David, I am on a different computer, so I don't have access to that. Let me see if it's in an email. And are we sure that that's not included in this package? If we
I think it
scroll
was
down.
only those 4 images.
It is not included.
Or Rob Nacky, do you have it handy?
I'm looking, David, right now. Let me see if I can track it down.
Me too.
I'm looking too. Let me see if I've got it in my files here. Sorry, folks, we should have been prepared for this question, and we are not.
Okay, take your time.
While you're looking, it would also be great to get clarity if we approve to have a cutout in the sidewalk for the entry. Usually we would want the sidewalk to stay at the same elevation and that the drive-through would accommodate the elevation of the sidewalk, not the sidewalk accommodate the elevation of the drive-through.
That is already in. We're not proposing any changes to any of the existing elevations. That was constructed as approved in our original permit set. This is only basically providing the physical hardware that you see there. It's not proposing any changes to the ground level at all.
And this is Tom Lockwood, CFO at CJ Senior Life. Prior to this whole development, there was a similar gate next to the gate that led into the parking lot on Howard Street previously. So it really I just replacing the exact same setup, but the gate, rather than going the gate to the driveway going horizontal down the street, is going vertical up to the building. But the separate entrance for walking gate was already present previously. And I will confirm David's comment. During this period, we've had two separate instances where 3 catalytic converters were stolen. One on the college, Oakton College campus under security, and one right in front of our corporate offices at 3:30 in the morning. It takes 5 minutes, they're gone. So the overnight security is a must. And that's not a reflection on Howard Street as much as is just the nature of things these days. So thank you.
I think we're all in support of finding a way to secure the property. I think it's just how it looks to make sure it, and it's not, we would, I think, have the same concerns about material and what it would look like, whether it was any place in Evanston.
Could you also just show us what it looks like now without the security fencing, please?
Okay, I've got some material here that is, let me just make
David,
sure
I have the cut sheet, David. I'm
Do you?
just mailing it to myself and I'll be able to share my screen in a moment.
Okay. And let me look and see if I have current pictures of the site that are of the condition that we're all looking at here.
So how do I share my screen?
Should be an option at the top to share your screen.
We're done. If you want to email it to me, I can do it.
Or the bottom, Dom. I see a share screen at the bottom of my screen. Green button.
Yes, right in front of me. Thank you. Okay, can you see that? Guys, see that now? This is the material that's proposed for the panels. And then I will also grab an image for the garage door. Can you guys see that McNichols product, perforated metal panel?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you used this product at other locations?
The perforated panel, yes, we have.
It might be helpful. I mean, I'm sorry, because this isn't something that you're going to be able to show us right this moment, but it might be helpful if you were to take a picture of where it's installed elsewhere so people could see what it looks like in practice.
Sure.
And then, Dom, you want to show the rolling fence?
And I think the other question is and maybe Laura, you just said this, but I think getting a sense, where, not only just where other places might have this installation, but were other materials considered too for this fence, or is this it for the options?
This material is consistent with the other embellishments that we have on the facade. There's a wire mesh that's used above at the balcony guard. And we thought that this would provide a more finished look at this scale than the wire mesh would.
I think if the material provides an adequate visibility, it feels like a higher end material to me than some of the other choices that could have been presented.
That's how we've used it previously.
So Dom is showing you a drawing, and Dom, I'm going to grab the screen from you, and I will show actual photograph of what this looks like installed. This was cut sheet from the manufacturer. So if you want to stop sharing, I'll take it from you.
There you go. Cheers.
All right. So this is a cut sheet we received from the manufacturer. So you can see that it is pretty transparent as a material. You can see the color of the car, you can see the shape of the car, you can see people behind it. It's really, it's designed so that people can't get through it, not so that they can't see through it. It's not like one of the, I know when you think of security gates, you think of the Times Square, the heavy duty metal, window shutters that roll down, and that's not what this is. And while we're at it here, let me bring this over. So I don't have a current that shows the, we have pavers installed here, and this photo is from maybe 6 weeks ago, but this is the current condition looking out to Howard Street. So there are now pavers installed where this gravel is shown, and there's a thin layer of concrete. You could see the very small curb there, and so the concrete was poured to be level with that curb, and then the curb cut goes down from sidewalk level out to street level. So we really are looking at a continuous walking surface all the way across here.
And David, I drew a picture of the exterior of the building if people want to see what that would look like too.
Oh, Jenny has another picture, right? I'm going to release the screen and let Jenny put her picture up here.
Can you see my screen? This is an image here.
Yeah, this is also
it's a little older, yes, but
a few weeks old.
Yeah, showing that opening here where the garage door would go. Okay.
Great. Staff
So-
questions? Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Are we the deciding body on this, or does this go elsewhere?
We are. This is a minor adjustment.
I think the mesh looks fine, and I think the rolling gate, the actual gate itself looks fine. I'm just wondering, could there be a way to, in terms of the actual coil part that's at the top, would there be a way to sort of blend that into the building a little bit so that it doesn't look so rolling gate housing mechanical?
So it will be painted the same. There's a sort of orangey yellow color that's an accent color that will be the sort of final embellishment that's going on the building, we hope within the next 5 weeks or so. And the gate and the sort of appropriate accent pieces of the gate and the pedestrian fence will be painted to match that color. So it will all look like it was intentionally done, even though this was a sort of a an addition that was after the fact.
Currently, the window boxes that are used on the south facade, as well as the balcony guard above, will be that same color.
So I will make a motion for approval of the minor adjustment.
Wait,
So
I
I-
want to, wait, oh, go ahead, Edgar.
I have another question as far as the gate. I don't know if it states it on the plan, I wasn't able to find it, but the offset from the gate to the building, because just looking at the drawings, if it's only a 6-foot high fence, I'm wondering, and a catalytic converter is actually what we're trying to deter here, is what's stopping somebody from jumping that fence, going behind the gate and going into the building?
We didn't tell you about the razor wire at the top.
You didn't? Is that what you're telling me now?
Edgar apparently has a secret planning life. He's not sharing.
I mean, Tom Lockwood is here. Tom, the previous fence was only 6 feet, right? Or was it a higher fence?
No, it's 6 feet. I mean, you have the same, I mean, where there's a will, there's a way, but I mean, it's definitely a deterrent to try to go over a 6-foot fence.
Not to many.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing to point out is that, you know, somebody who is really determined to get over there, maybe we can't stop them, but they're going to have to steal this thing and then get it back over the fence and get out of there. You know, there are windows onto the back parking deck from the residential units. And so it is our hope that in the middle of the night or something, if someone a resident of the building hears them and sees them back there, that somebody will be kind enough to call the police. And we will have, you know, our camera system, we will have a security system in the building recording this activity. So hopefully a 6-foot fence would be sufficient here.
Is there a reason you wouldn't do like 7 feet? Or, I mean, I don't want to advocate for more screening, but Edgar does raise a good point. If
it simply adds cost to the project, and you know, but it's probably not going to add much cost to the project. Dom, I don't know. What do you think? 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet?
It's an incremental cost. It's probably not the main driver. I think, you know, the intent was to really, our concerns are the same as everyone here in terms of this facility's interface with the public and its appearance, and thought that this seemed to be an appropriate compromise in terms of its transparency and height at 6 feet. And if someone's getting over a 6-foot fence, I mean, the initial move seems to be the appropriate discouragement or impediment. I guess we were worried about 6 feet. We might also have similar concerns about 8 feet, and that I think would you know, be an issue in terms of the building's appearance.
all right, any other staff comments? My only other comment was that that this be considered to be removed in the event that the future does not have this kind of theft concern, and it didn't have to stay.
I will relay one other issue we have had in the past is where folks, you know, call them vagrants or homeless or whatever you want to call it, take up residence in the parking lot overnights. And that has happened in the past. We've even had in our lobbies before. So it is more than just the buses, but primarily right now, the buses are the major concern. But we have had pedestrian issues in the past as well.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is only on the west gate. And remember, this is a 2-level parking garage. So this is the access to the upper deck. The lower deck, which is primarily parking for the residents of the building, is still open with just a thin, one of those arms that it automatically goes up and down. So, if that's an issue, it's something that our property management will need to deal with on the lower level.
I would like to note if there are people who do not have a home who are utilizing your parking garage. The city has connections for the homeless in the city who can provide assistance with working with those people to help them find a different place to locate. So I recommend that if that becomes an issue, that you work with Connections for the Homeless.
Absolutely. I mean, we're in the business of providing affordable housing, and typically our property managers are pretty well trained, and as long as they're not, aggressive or disruptive or threatening in working with these folks to help provide better housing options, including potentially getting them on the list for a Cook County voucher so that they can live for very little money every month.
Well, and so I'm saying that there are people who are skilled with working with people who are unhoused, who may choose not to be housed, or who may not, for various reasons, that would be best suited for working with individuals who take up residence in your parking garage, if that should happen.
Okay.
All right, Laura, did you want to regroup on that motion?
Sure. I will make a motion for approval of the minor adjustment.
Second.
Okay, Katie, please call the roll.
Snyden,
Aye.
Griffith,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
I do not need to be a voting member on this motion. Schnur,
Aye.
Kano,
Yes.
Biggs,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Papa,
Aye.
Eckersberg,
Aye.
Heinck,
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Serena, you're on mute.
Thanks, David. Thank you, everybody. That concludes our business. We have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30. Just trying to catch up on the backlog of activity for the former Burger King site. So I will see you all at hopefully at 9:30 tomorrow morning. And then just a reminder going forward, this meeting starts at 2 o'clock on Tuesdays now. So I know the 2 o'clock to 2:30 time is confusing, but that's what it is. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 See you tomorrow.
Thank you.